I feel like because I missed the last rehearsal, so I'm excited. We're going back for our final rehearsal on I think it's Thursday,
It's
and
Thursday. It was
I'm
so
very
fun
excited.
too. Like, yeah, into
The
it.
casting is great.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Speaking of plays people are obsessed with, Keyanna, when you read Sway and texted me in the middle of the night, losing your mind. Don't just out me like that. You're so welcome. This
I
is
look I look forward.
an unofficial episode of our favorites.
Awesome.
Most likely.
I feel like that's not the feeling I feel about right now.
Yes. Every day.
An apple.
Oh, sorry. I had a croissant and tea. Sorry, guys.
I had two English muffins that were topped with eggs, feta, and bacon. Oh man, I if nothing else, I eat breakfast at the very least. So find time for that. I'll be making them throughout. This thing's a mess. What's that?
Hello.
So I want to go ahead and just start us off with a little small introduction for yourselves and for your plays. Kind of, I gave bios, but like, how'd you get started in theater? And what show are you working on with Occupy the Stage? We will start with Lindsay.
Hi, so I'm Lindsay Carpenter. Yeah, I've been doing theater since I was 9 years old. I actually started with musical theater and haven't done a musical in a very long time. But I started acting and then eventually realized I wanted to direct and finally decided I was most drawn to writing. So it's been a long, kind of slow process. In terms of Occupy, I actually first submitted 3 years ago with this play, Walk Girl. A friend of mine is from North Carolina, and so she had known about this, and so we had submitted. So this is actually my third year in the festival, and it's come to just be something that I really love to try to submit to each year because the work is just so interesting. My play, Our Black Death, is about the Black Death, the plague, in the 1300s, and it's about these two peasant women who have spent their whole life trying to be together, and then because the plague kills off their husbands, they're finally able to be together. So it's a dark comedy with spells and quick turns and just a lot of ridiculous moments paired next to very serious moments.
Yeah, so my name is Nikta. I was born in Iran and raised in Iran and moved to Canada after my graduation from University of Tehran. I studied theater directing in University of Tehran. And in Canada, I learned French and I went to school in University of Ottawa. I did my master's in theater theory and dramaturgy in French program. And after that, another immigration, and we moved to US like 4 years ago. And I started again learning English and finding a job in English theater companies and operas companies. So since 2017, I'm living in Boston, and I do theater as a freelance theater like director. I translate Persian play, and I produce Persian play also. And Thread. So Thread is about Iranian immigrant family. And so talking about a relationship between a mom and a daughter, and also is talking about differences, opinions of different generations. So we'll see 3 different generations in this play, and the main character of the play is a woman, Iranian woman that immigrated to US just after Iranian Revolution because of political situation. And she also wants to keep her daughter connect to her mom's country, even if she, like the daughter haven't never been in Iran, and she just grew up here, and she wants to always convince her mom that maybe I doesn't belong there. My life is here. So yeah, this is the play that I'm directing in Occupy Stage Reading.
Thank you. And SMJ.
Hey, I'm SMJ. I'm a trans, non-binary, mixed playwright, mime, theater educator, theater maker based out of New York City, where I'm currently in a brand new apartment with my wonderful partner in the Upper West Side. I'm originally from Mount Vernon, Ohio, where the poverty rate is, at the latest estimates, 20% of my town. I was well within that, very below the poverty line. However, our community theater environment was very bustling. When I was a kid, my parents were separated while staying in the same house, very unique situation, but they were separated, so I didn't want to be home very much. So in 7th grade, my choir teacher, who's essentially my second mom, was like, hey, you should go to this mime school that was based out of Kenyon College. Started by Greg Goldston. And I was like, I know nothing about mime. I also have no money. They're like, we have a scholarship. What I've now come to realize in 2020 That was back in 2007. There was no scholarship. It was just we're going to pay for little old SMJ to go to this mime thing. So I did that for till I graduated. When I was in high school, I did 50 plays, and that was all for like survival, you know. Um, then I was supposed to go to NYU. I'm going to do a very quick little rundown. I was supposed to go to NYU, but money. So I had to drop out of NYU a week before classes started, and luckily Otterbein University had me on their rosters for some reason. So the next 2 days after dropping out of NYU, I raced down to Otterbein, which was like 45 minutes from my house, signed paperwork, and I was in orientation 3 days later. Yeah, whoa. Then I transferred within Otterbein's BA theater program to the BFA acting program. When I had to move to New York, I was like, I don't want to act anymore because of the industry and their double standards when it comes to one, bigger people, and two, trans people. So I pivoted to playwriting. I went to the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center where I was both a student and an apprentice. And now I'm here. Sway, my play, is about three rising social media influencers who are invited to an exclusive influencing retreat at the Spawn Ranch with social media influencer Charlie, who has 15 million Instagram followers and appears on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It talks a lot about the masturbatory nature of social media, both literally and metaphorically. Talks a lot about cult behavior, both in real life and on social media. A little bit about trauma porn that goes on within influencer culture. There's a lot of sex and fetishization. It's dark, y'all.
Yep.
I love it. I
Yes.
love it. It's kind of crazy, but yeah.
So real quick, there's so much to unpack here because there's three wonderful people on your computer screen right now, viewers. So one of the things is so fascinating to me when I hear theater makers and creative content creators talk about is like their origin stories, right? How did you fall into theater and how did you make this life choice? Because it is. A lot of stuff isn't a choice, but doing theater, you gotta love it to want to continue it professionally. So thank you all for kind of giving us these small windows into how you fell into this industry and made it here. Occupy the Stage is very unique, I think, in how it operates and how it is dedicated to people who, like, you know, they're not always the most published, the most renowned playwrights, and that's kind of the point. We're tired of seeing the same 5 names on everything. So Lindsay hinted at this a little bit in her introduction. How did you hear about Occupy the Stage, and what made you want to submit to be a part of this process?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my friend had heard about it, and we submitted. And the first time, it wasn't something I really thought very much about, to be honest. But the experience I've had there has always just been incredibly positive. It's clear that this is a group of people who really care about what they're producing. And I feel like what's been really exciting about this time is because I haven't been in North Carolina and I haven't, been able to actually witness any of the productions. This is the first time I'm really able to participate. So it's taken on a whole new dimension of being able to actually interact with the director, attend rehearsals, and then finally get to see it. So it just feels different this year, which has been really exciting.
SMJ, how about you? What made you want to submit Sway?
So I've been working on it for a while. My father passed right before the lockdown, so my life has been fascinating. Past the lockdown, so I sort of made it my mission because my father was like, "Hey, I believe in you." So you carry that weight on you. And I found myself discouraged by the stuff that I was applying to. My friend Ezra Brain, who's a wonderful trans playwright, based out of used to live in North Carolina, Sent this my way, and I was like, oh, hey, I have a play that can be played by women or trans people. So, like, 100%. And I thought it was extremely relevant now that we are inundated 100% with social media. Um, and then I found out I got it. I was like, dope. This is a cool mission. This is a cool thing. Um, Creating an opportunity that's specifically geared towards um, trans, gender nonconforming, non-binary, any other umbrella in the LGBTQIA plus spectrum was appealing, and I'm glad that I did it.
I mean, I'm going to speak for Women's Theater Festival and say we're glad that you did it too. I'm just going to take that whole burden, put the whole team on my back, and say that. All right, and Nikta, as our director representative for this episode, how did you hear about Occupy and what made you want to submit?
Yeah, I'm so happy and fortunate that I got involved in this event. Like being part of this stage reading marathon and getting involved with a lot of talented and enthusiastic women artists is very great opportunity for me to stay focused, be creative, and also practice professionalism during the self-quarantine. So all people who are organizing this event, organizing the Women Theater Festival, I think they are very organized, very professional, and very creative, so purposeful. So I'm learning a lot from them. And as an immigrant, as an immigrant artist, as a theater director living in diaspora, finding its like organization that valued equality in theater, that empowered women is great opportunity for me. So as I said, I'm living in US for like almost 4 years, but I can say I still struggling to find a place that I can project myself, that I can be myself, that I can project my thought about my culture, presenting on my culture. And so when I became familiar with Women Theater Festival and see how they welcome new voices, how they promote women theater and women artists. So I was so happy. And then when I figure out they have this event and they are hiring director, I just applied quickly.
And I'm so glad you did, because we need storytellers who are outside of the industry norm, at least here in America. We have, again, I'll keep saying it, we always have like the same 5-10 people, it feels like, doing these remarkable works. And where their work is still remarkable, great, cool, who else can tell a story though? So I'm going to reiterate, this is the fangirl episode, so if there are moments where I just kind of gush and giggle, just know like it's coming from a sincere place of love, and I need to buy time to get my thoughts back in order. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Quarantine has stopped a lot of creative work and theatrical work, and my question to the three individuals on the screen is, how have you been trying to find creative outlets before Occupy to hold you over, we'll say, until your next project?
I'm crazy. I just got to keep working. So as soon as we went, like the day before NYC shut down, I was actually in a retreat in Colorado, working on Sway, and then came back when a lockdown. My partner left the week after to be at home during the majority of this. So I was like, well, I got to find something to do. So, I mean, I started a podcast. I started pulling out weekly readings or monthly readings for Zoom that I would host actors that I really enjoyed their work or friends, and being like, hey, let's be in community with each other. I did a workshop of a play about Power Rangers that I wrote from multiple years ago that got canceled in 2019. So I said, hey, let's just do it now. And see what happens. And we raised $1,300. So I paid everybody $110. So that way they had some semblance of money, even if it wasn't a lot. Like, I mean, and I had no budget. I had no budget. I had no producers. I had nothing. I've been working with the Tank in NYC. I've been sort of going all over the map because I mean, this is the first time that my brother, who's like the only family that I really talk to a ton besides my mom, this is the first time he's been able to see any of my work because it's all digital. It's mostly financially accessible. People just want to. People are so hungry to do stuff, and you know, no, I can't get too fired up because there's going to be a question about whether this is for the future, right? Right.
Yes.
I will say that I saw a very weird article about another theater maker calling out anybody who's doing digital theater, asking who is it for. My main question is, no one's judging you for not doing theater right now, and if that is not healthy for you, like mentally, don't do it, and no one should judge you anyway. But I think if theater makers stop calling out other theater makers for trying to do stuff during this time and trying to make a name for themselves when the industry has already been putting most of us down, especially trans writers, directors, and actors, I think if more of those Broadway people actually like stepped up and either funded us or did their own version of theater, then we wouldn't be in this like weird mess where like we're doing plays for $5. Just my thought. Maybe that's a little controversial off the bat, but that's just me. I love this. I think quarantine's actually exposed a lot of great things.
Hot take from SMJ. How about you, Lindsay? How has quarantine been either fostering or burdening your creative process?
Sure. And I feel like every time SMJ you say something, I'm just like, can we just listen to you keep talking? I feel like I just want to know more.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's changed theater. I think it's going to fundamentally change theater this time away. And I'm hoping for the better, but I'm scared we'll just go back to the way things were and that a lot of the smaller companies won't survive. And I think that's my worst case fear. I agree. Like people are able to see my work that never got to see my work, and I'm able to see work that I never would have gotten to see. And that's felt really exciting. But I also just get so tired when I watch a play on Zoom. And so I've been really trying to find plays that feel like they're doing something different. There was a cabaret, I guess, that I went to pretty early on, probably in March or April, where you would go into a Zoom room and get a few links and then go into a different Zoom room. And you just kind of explored this maze of people's houses. And some people were dancing. Some people were doing magic shows. One guy was just frying an egg. It was exciting. And I was told to dress up. But I made myself a drink. It was incredibly intimate too. And so I think I'm really curious about what we can do that feels unique right now, that feels like it actually takes advantage of the moment right now. I actually run a murder mystery party company, and I was doing that in New York before, and it's changed how we do the company. Suddenly we have people in Australia doing murder mysteries with people in New York. And so I feel like there are a lot of things opening up, but I still miss the proximity. I feel like my writing has become so much. Since lockdown, I've started basically writing a play that's these 4 kids played by adults building a pillow fort. And it's really dumb. It doesn't have a lot under the surface. But what I think I need from it is that it's incredibly theatrical. It's like very physical. And it's this promise to myself that we're going to come back to physical theater. And I feel like I'm trying to balance a lot of things right now. And I don't know, it's unsatisfying sometimes and it's exciting other times.
So many good answers. All right, Nikta, how has quarantine been affecting your creative process?
I'm like both of you, like some is a mixed feeling in one side. So I got more focused and I shut down everything and I just focus on reading more about theater, watching movies and watching all theater. And also I wrote and directed virtual theater and at the end of August, at the end of July, and with 2 other friends. And Like SMJ said, my grandma in Iran could watch our show at the same time. A lot of friends in Canada and in Europe, all of them at the same time could watch me. That was interesting opportunity and experience for me as a director and actor. But it's different. It's totally different situation, different experience, but it's different what we call theater. We learn theater is just form in connection between audience and actors. And now actors don't see audience and how they can get connected to the audience. And for audience also it's different, because audience wants to be brought up in the process and get involved, not even with artists, with the other audience members in theater. So it's completely different. But on the other hand, we have new tools to explore. We have new platform to practice our creativity, our flexibility, and explore different type of theater. So we have, for example, we can play with camera angles, we can have multi-cameras, and we can multiple locations, or having new tools of technology like VR, AR, virtual reality, augmented reality. And I hope industry continues to explore online theater and digital possibilities even after pandemic, because as I said, one of the important features of online theater is we can have broader audience member from all around the world. So what could be more delightful for an artist that could share her thought or her art with many audiences from all around the world, from different background cultures. So this is cool and interesting. So I hope we can continue online theater.
I think that is the tagline for all virtual theater. It's cool and interesting. Just put that on everything. That's the new quote. But I have been on this advocacy for virtual theater kick for the last couple of months, because I do think that there is merit in it, that there is still... it has artistic merit, period. No other explanation, no other part of that sentence. And we talked a little bit, not we, I didn't say anything, but I think it was SMJ talked on accessibility. Well, I think all of you did, really. And I want to take that even further, and in a similar vein, my nephew is on the spectrum, so having him sit quietly in a dark space for 2 hours, kind of impossible, right? But now that my work is virtual and it's as easy as pulling up YouTube, right? He has been able to see our work, and it's my understanding that a lot of people have been taking this opportunity to reach out to these communities of people where traditional theatrical experiences were not accessible to them. Whether that was mobility accessibility, whether that was sitting in a chair still for 2.5 hours accessibility, those needs can now be met because we are slowly deconstructing all of the barriers of access to our work. And that part is the standout for me. That part is why virtual theater, and we're totally just going to skip to this question now, why that is a huge selling point to continue virtual theater in the future. Okay, since we're already talking about it, we're going to roll right into it. The future of theater. What does it look like? Lindsay, go.
Not a small question at all. Sure.
Needs no prep time, just straight off the cuff.
Well, I guess I'm hoping that the gains somehow translate to in-person theater. That the financial accessibility, just all of it, just because this model isn't working, and it hasn't worked for a pretty long time. And it's been different for me living in New York. I lived in Seattle and Boston and grew up in California. So it's been different living here, where theater costs significantly more, but at the same time, it's for more than just theater people. And so it's been kind of interesting and conflicted for me to kind of look at that. Okay, theater in the future. I mean, there's so many things that I want to change, but I think on a personal level, what I'm excited about, and maybe this is too small, but I want to see more theater that doesn't feel like a person on stage talking to people sitting in an audience. I think that is just what we think of as theater, and I think there's a lot more that I can be. And I think people having to be creative for Zoom theater is starting to open up the doors. Like, I'm really excited by theater that gives the audience control over the outcome of the story while still being narratively satisfying. And I feel like we try to draw a line around theater, that theater is different from TV, and theater is different from video games, and theater is different from all these things, rather than saying, why does it always have to be? Can it be exciting to bring those people in? And then once we do, we also draw a line around who gets to be the audience member. I have a lot of friends from college who are, engineers, and felt like they weren't allowed in the theater. And when they came in, there were references and audience norms that they just didn't get. And I feel like the walls should just start breaking down, because they have in so many other fields. So why is this one still rigid?
Absolutely. Small anecdote here to kind of speak on like how elitist theater has been in the past is, so my dad is not a theater person, let's say it for what it is, but I remember as a kid him telling me, well, you need to read Shakespeare, and you need to read Eugene O'Neill, and you need to read all of these people because folks are going to reference it. Like, and I, in my mind, was like, oh, well, if my dad's telling me that must be the truth. And I didn't question it till I was older. And it's like, oh, not everyone had to sit there and read August Wilson and have these backgrounds in theater in order to do the thing. Like, that is that is a concept that's been around as a means to limit access to people to make art. So I was perpetuating it because that's the lesson my dad taught me at an early age. And I'm like, oh, well, that's not good. So speaking to Lindsay's point on like, no, don't do it. Everyone, no matter their background, no matter where they are in life, art is art, and art is for people. Again, period. There's nothing else at the end of that sentence. So yes, I just want to toss a wee bit in there as well. Nikta? Future?
I think theater's gonna survive definitely past this through, and as soon as the life goes to normal, the theater will be open and everyone go to theater again. But as I said, I hope the industry continues exploring digital possibilities and online theater, because I feel like, and I feel like they will do it. Probably the future of theater is more digital, and a lot of augmented reality and virtual reality will be applying in theater.
You're so right. SMJ, thoughts?
Oh, do I have thoughts? No, yeah, I do. We have to demystify theater. I think it's like people who are saying that they think theater is going to die because of a pandemic obviously weren't around like when cave people were starting to do it. They didn't make money. Now I understand, like, yes, we should try to make money. That's one of the bigger problems with theater anyway. But like this myth that like theater has to be curated by a certain group of people, or you have to have a certain amount, like, and it's not just a systematic thing we need to change for the for-profit theater as well. It's theater training. Me and my partner talk about this all the time. My partner and I both went to Otterbein University, which is a BFA program. I was always at risk of being kicked out because of money, and I was in the top of my class. And Sally, my wonderful partner, is a phenomenally talented person. Like, I never got the opportunity. Like, I had to be paid for to go to this mime school that's literally 10 minutes from my house. And Sally was able to go to Cherubs, and she knows people that couldn't go to Cherubs. And that's just a certain threshold that's there. Now, I understand, yes, we got to pay professionals for training people, obviously. But also we got to look at what we're training people. We're telling people in BFA acting programs they're not allowed to do anything besides BFA acting. Most of the classes look very white. There was a girl in my class who auditioned for 20 schools because she was able to do that. I auditioned for 2. And I got in trouble with my high school for going to New York for a day because I missed it because I was on perfect attendance or whatever, right? We need to either give people a lot more money to do it or take the money down. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, it doesn't start until the money stops going. And it's foolish of us to not think that digital theater will go on beyond this because of the accessibility, both financially and for people with differing abilities in all senses, right? Some people can't drop everything and take a flight to New York to go watch their person's Broadway debut. Same thing of like the fact that we still have plays that are going 7 hours long. Like, that's not like, I don't want to drop too many bombs about that. I have thoughts about plays that last longer than 2.5 hours. I just think, that's also time accessibility. Some people don't have that time. They work, I think we're going to be a lot more mindful of what we're putting out, who are the people that we're listening to and putting that out to. And we're really behind. Like, video games are theater. I don't know who doesn't know this, but a lot of people don't apparently in the theater spectrum. Like, they're doing the same thing we're doing, and there's a reason why that industry is billions of dollars. Like, because they're able to interact with people in a way that theater hasn't clicked with yet. And yeah, I'm hoping to see more interactive stuff. Like, choose your own place. How has that not become a genre? Like a more mainstream popular genre that we've seen. I think we're going to see a lot more playwrights dip over into the story writing of video games, just like they've been doing for TV and film. Yeah, I think we're going to lose the art. I'm not an artist. I don't like calling myself an artist. I'm a maker. My industry is a service for people to watch. Do I get something out of that? Yeah, I mean, like, sure. Like, processing stuff, yeah, that's what I love to do on the page. But it's also like my job to show people what's going on, like, in another segment of the world. Because often we have many rich people writing about poor people, and it is effed up. So as a poor person, my job is to show that, like, one of the plays I'll be working on later this year and re-editing is about this sort of poverty line thing that we get to. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's really, yeah, I think we just, yep. My long winding answer is yes, it should. And if it doesn't, we're screwed.
Absolutely. Part of my argument for why virtual theater has merit is always like, if we, for all the history buffs out there, if we are looking at the past and how theater has evolved, which it has, like, we're not using literal limelights anymore. Like, let's all call it for what it is. We no longer have those Greek dramatic masks on, although, some people still use them. Cool, that's your prerogative. But, like, every single time a major event happens, a change in government, a change in culture, a change in society happens, theater evolves and adapts and is flexible enough to reflect the reality it is being created in. And for all of these people who say virtual theater is not real life theater, it does not have any artistic merit, I challenge you to ask, how else are we going to reflect the times we are in if we don't do virtual theater? For all the people out there working 9 to 5 on a Zoom call, right? This is their reality, and why would we not try to show that and try to represent that? You don't make any sense. I just wanted to toss that out there to all the haters. Is that what, do the kids still use that? The haters? Is that a, thank you. So yes to all of that. And the idea of, again, breaking down these barriers of access allows us to be more representative in different people's stories, because you don't have to rent out that $5,000 a night theater in order to put on a show, right? The once you have that upfront cost of streaming live to YouTube, who's to say you don't add a couple more viewers for free? Like, your cost does not change now if old Nana paid the $5 for the link, and then your cousin, who you know is a struggling college student, can't pay the $5. What's changed if you send the link? And I don't know why I used Nana and a cousin for this example, but sure, let's run with it. Oh, ooh, choked up. Am I getting passionate? Did SMJ's passion transfer into my screen?
Let the anger fuel you,
Yeah.
It can be good. I mean, everywhere, like, we should be angry. Like, this administration has done a shitty job with the pandemic. We have people in higher producer roles who are, like, not spreading the wealth around, right? And most of us are like, now we're on Zoom being like, this is the first time that I'm able to, like, put this platform out. Like, yeah, we should be pissed. Like, or we should be happy that we're able to, like, actually share something with family, with friends. Sorry to interrupt. Yep.
Nope. Because, again, I do not know where that was going. So thank you for saving me. And now we're going to move on to the next question. We're talking about virtual theater. I do not think the 3 plays we are talking about today, Sway, Threads, Our Black Death, I'm pretty sure none of them were written for the virtual stage. So let's talk about adaptation and what that process is like. I would love to pick particularly Nikta's brain about this, because from a director's point of view, you had to kind of reimagine the script in a 2D type of world. How did you do it?
Oh, so it's challenging. Definitely, it's difficult and challenging. So, because even in stage reading, because as we know, theater rehearsal is just based on exchanging energy, exchanging emotions, and how can I connect to actors who are sitting in different cities, even maybe in different time zones, get connected together through Zoom. So it's difficult, definitely. But I can say the only things we all have in common is the script, is the play. So the more we connect to the story, the better we understand the story, the play, we can get easier connected to each other. So this is my responsibility as a director, to spend as much as possible time to analyze and to explore different aspects of the play with actors. So that's it. It's difficult, but it works.
Were there any particular... Ooh, nope, because I was like, that's a script question. I was going to ask, were there any particular moments you find the hardest to adapt for Zoom? But that might be some spoilers in that question, so I'm going to... So if you could answer without giving specifics, if that's
well,
possible.
Definitely when they, like, some actors are touching with each other, or like doing some acting that is involved, like physically involved, that's difficult. That's the most difficult part. So, but we need to be creative and we need to find another way. So
Yep.
I do my best, but still also for this, we only have 3 rehearsal, and it's make it more difficult, because we want to, like, I try to just email them and ask them, if you have any question, I will be available. Like, let's do this before rehearsal. Let's prepare this before rehearsal to have everything ready, but it's still difficult.
Yep, it's a challenging feat to try to do all of this work and then within the time limits that we have for Occupy, it's doubly hard. For our playwrights, I know some playwrights elected to do revisions on the script to make it more Zoom friendly. Did either of you do that option? No. Okay. Cool.
No, I've sort of been satisfied in my decision that like I'm going to apply for every digital theater experience that I can, but I'm not going to change it to be a Zoom play if it's not a Zoom play. And I think that's actually more exciting because it's like, okay, great. What's this challenge of how do we move different things? How do we show actors who are supposed to be in really physical, intimate touching? Like, what are different ways that we can give off that vibe without actually doing it? And I think that's a really fun thing that I'm seeing my director Sophia do, and with their work with the intimacy director Elle, and then all my wonderful actors. So it's like, I'm just sort of resolved to be like, if it's not a Zoom play, it's not a Zoom play. But I love when it's converted to the digital space. I think, it just makes me excited as a writer to be like, okay, so if I decide to do anything in the future that's a little more Zoom friendly, it's like, here are effective techniques that I can utilize, or when I'm directing on my own time, like these are effective techniques I could take forward.
It also is an interesting alignment because your show does deal with so much virtual stuff already, social media and online interactions with people, whether they are sincere or not. So it's going to be a fun experience for me to see how that relates, the content of the show, how that relates to putting it on a computer screen. So that's just a personal enjoyment for me. Lindsay, Our Black Death, how's the Zoomage of that going?
Yeah, I feel similarly, I think, where I didn't want to make it a Zoom play. I didn't want to change it really for that. I found honestly that the workshop side of Zoom works really well for me. Like, I like being in rehearsals with people. I get a lot out of that. And I always feel a little more cringy about the actual reading themselves. And I've done a handful of virtual things now, and I find that to be true no matter who I'm working with. But the rehearsal time itself doesn't feel as changed to me. And so I feel like that's sort of what I gravitate to for these Zoom workshops, readings. That's the part I found really valuable. In terms of Our Black Death specifically, I was thinking about this recently. I've never actually heard it live in front of an audience, which is the only play of mine I can say that about. And so I don't know when it's funny I don't know when it's tense. I hope I'm right about where I think those moments are, but some people will be like, oh, I laughed at that part. And I'll be like, but did you? Like, I don't have proof. I wasn't sitting in the room with an audience. And so I feel like that's felt very different. But in terms of like actual things, there's only one spot in the play that I'm like, this does not work on Zoom. And it's a moment where in the play, it's like one actor's name or one character's name, and then like ... and then another character ... and the dots get longer. And it's meant to, I like to call it a silent conversation. It's meant to be a very back and forth. It grows. And it just is hard to do on Zoom. And like, I've seen so many attempts at it, and people act their little heart sad on that moment. And I'm like, it just is not the same as if you had two people on stage giving like faces at each other. But I think other than that, I've been surprised by how much it feels like a reading where you wouldn't get to touch, you wouldn't get to do all sorts of things. There was actually, I did a virtual reading of one of my plays several months ago, and it's the only play that I was like, oh, this doesn't work on Zoom. This is just a total disaster on Zoom. And it's very much dark comedy with like people walking in and out, and just the physical element of it was so important. But I've mostly found most plays, maybe fewer, maybe not all the comedies, but most plays seem to feel like a reading to me on Zoom. So
there is always going to be that aspect of sharing presence with each other on stage that's kind of missing in Zoom. Like, let's call it for what it is. And comedy is so hard virtually, at least in my experience, because you need that audience engagement. You need to hear the laughs to know, like, do I hold? Do I continue the bit? Like, without that scene partner to play off of in person, plus not having the audience energy to play off of, I find it really hard. So there are moments of comedy in most shows. Like, I'm going to say 95% of the shows, you need some sort of reliever in there. So I'm so excited to see how these comedic moments play out. Because if the best we can hope for is someone is moved enough to type LOL into the chat, right? Like, that's what we're hoping for. So it's different and it's harder, especially for our actors, to gauge, am I doing well? Are people into this? I don't know. We're just gonna keep on saying words into the screen and hope for the best. That was me buying time because I was scrolling to find the next question. And here it is. All of your shows look at love and look at relationships through very different lenses. And we only have a small amount of time left, but I would love for you to kind of talk about what type of relationships we see in your shows. And I'm gonna hop into Sway because I think that's gonna have the most interesting answer.
I mean, oh God. I really feel like, social media is this giant power play, right? And all these influencers just want to clout chase each other. And what happens when that happens in real life? When you're forced to deal with a person you may have seen on social media that you've sort of fetishized, and now you have to be like, I'm actually facing you. I'm also drawn to this weird relationship where we've now, and now I'm seeing people in my own life doing it, and I've experienced it myself as I just came out as trans 100% fully back in June after being outed by my hometown newspaper. And so I shared this statement, and it was mostly a statement of like, actually, I haven't been feeling great. But then everybody on the thing goes, woohoo, you did it. We love you, blah, blah, blah. You're trans, yay. And I've been seeing that with a lot of friends where we start weaponizing, whether or not we mean to, we weaponize our trauma as a way of connection. And we then actually start taking and generalizing our trauma enough to cover this like trauma blanket that enwraps everybody in our little trauma little blanket. We're all in the bed together. We're all sleeping with each other's trauma. We're all, not to take this lightly, but we're all triggering each other into response. And then people with higher power are actually revoking that ability for you to respond to them, and you hope that they respond to you, and then they go, nope, my boundary is I don't really talk about it once I do my post. So that I feel like that plays a lot in the play. There's a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How about for Threads? What type of relationships are we diving into for that story?
Yeah, as I said, it's about like differences of opinions in generation. We'll see 3 different generations in the play. And we'll see an Iranian woman, immigrant, who is still looking for her place in the society after 17 years of immigration. And because she cannot forget about her country, she cannot forget about her relationship with her mom. And also she's dealing with her relationship with her daughter. And she wants to have her daughter for herself and protect her in this new society, grow up her with the cultural background that mom come from. So this relationship between this mom and daughter is very interesting, and comparing with the relationship with the main character and with her mom is interesting part of Thread. And that's it. So it's very interesting play, and I will invite everyone watch this stage reading.
I will also be very candid. I bawled at the end of Threads. I was just like, because again, that idea of like processing your own trauma, I was just like, moms. It was so good, so good. Also, I want to talk about our Black Death relationships. Our producer for TND, Hannah Williams, is directing that piece, and I keep berating her with questions like, explain what this show's about. And every time she's just like, Key, it's just great. It's great. That's all you need to know. So I'm so interested to see what Lindsay's answer is to this question.
Well, it's funny hearing the other answers. I was thinking it's kind of a spoiler to answer this question because, and I'm trying to like think carefully about how to say what to say, but what you think the relationships are not always what they actually are, is I guess what I'll say. And so, I try very hard to make the audience go through the same journey as one of the characters, and kind of perceive the same things. So it's tricky, but I guess to be a little simpler about it, some of the relationships are this love story between these two women who are peasants in this, 1300s England. And it's very much a tongue-in-cheek play. It's not, Shakespeare's England. It's people are really irreverent and sometimes more eloquent than they should be. But it also is one of the main relationships is between this nobleman who's 16. Well, in this version, that's a funny thing because I've actually done a revision since this draft, so it'll be still 60 in this version. But this man who's locked himself in his room because of the pandemic, and then this woman who's come and kind of it levels the playing fields between these people who never would have gotten to speak, which is one of those funny things where I thought I was being very inventive coming up with a man who put himself into a small room and isolated himself during quarantine, and then 2 months later we were in a pandemic and everyone was doing that. So the relationships shift a lot, and kind of what you see on face value changes by the end of the play.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm so excited to see all of these shows, y'all. We are at time, so I want to open up the floor if anyone has any pluggables or any projects they want to shout out. Now is the time to do so.
Yeah. I'm working with Josh Wilder, who's a wonderful Black playwright now based out of California. Where he's teaching me all about screenwriting. So testing that water out. I have 2 pilots I'm trying to work on. One is an adaptation of the Power Ranger play I was talking about, and one would be that addresses a systematic racism within women's pro wrestling. Right now I'm also a member of the Sappho Project's Work Lab, based out of New York. So I have development funds to do a workshop in sometime in 2021 of a mime musical. It's about a trans mime and a bisexual queer ballerina. And it's a mime musical. Would the last 10 minutes have no music? How does that work? We're going to find out. I start rehearsals for that Saturday, so that will be great. And then I'm also a member of the Art House Incubators playwright group in Jersey, where I'm developing a devised behind-the-scenes development podcast, as well as a play called Our Childhood Sucked. My entire team is assembled of LGBTQIA plus identifying and a good amount of BIPOC theater makers, and we're investigating both the positives and negatives of our media on our bodies and minds when we were growing up. So each episode of the podcast talks about a specific element of media, and then the play will be about that and how do we exercise those demons out of our bodies. Great collaborators like Ludmila Brito is my director, Ezra Brain, Daniel Truss, Daniel Kunkel, all these wonderful up-and-coming theater makers.
So many great projects. Thank you. All right. Lindsay or Nikta, did you have any last-minute pluggables? You can say no.
Just thank you for inviting us. And thank you again for Women's Theater Festival for giving me this opportunity.
All right. Oh.
Just a couple, one or two things. My short film Brickalack, which is about it's like a post-apocalyptic love story with aliens. Is going to be at the NYU Tisch Fringe Festival in December, and just a podcast, Ley Lines, that I've been writing for a couple of years now is almost finished with production, about various cities across the country having magic and just how that manifests itself.
Oh, that sounds like a wild ride already. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much to our guests for being on the end of our series for Occupy the Stage / the Fangirl episode. If you have not gotten your tickets for Occupy the Stage, do so. Again, that is happening November through the 8th. All those links are in the description below. Today is November 3rd. So if you don't know already, it's election day. Please, if you have not already, go vote. Look up what time your state polls close and get in before that. Do your civic duty. Vote. It's very important. Also important, maybe not equally so, but also important, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the little bell so you can catch up on all of Theaters Not Dead's content and be notified when we go live next time. Social media for both Theaters Not Dead and Women's Theater Festival also listed below. Check out those links. Click on them. Do the things. Okay, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in to Theaters Not Dead. I'm Keyanna Alexander saying, guess what, gang? Theater ain't dead. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.